Good morning. It's Ayya Vimala, and it's Thursday, February the 18th. We have lots of sun, lots of snow, but I think it's warming up here. I see snow is falling again, so it may warm up enough to snow and then get cold again. But we're grateful for the sun, so we really appreciate the sun on cold winter days. I was just watching actually on YouTube a talk that Bhante Saranapala gave yesterday, and it was so beautiful. He talked about right effort, and that's something that I've been really thinking a lot lately, and realizing that with the time the increase of time that I've had through the pandemic, my own situation is I have a lot of time just to be with myself, and that's a good thing. But what I've noticed is how important it is to work with right effort, and that's that process of seeing defilements in our own mind, and that can just be seeing things that can even just be things that cause us to be unhappy or angry or sad or depressed. And he was talking specifically about working with people with depression, which seems to be getting more and more common these days. But he had such a beautiful story, and it really brought home for me that process of right effort we have to be very diligent with it. And I find that's true for me. So right effort, when we talk about right effort in the Eightfold Path, we're talking about the effort that we need to make to purify our minds, to notice the thoughts in our minds that are causing us, that are causing us to be unhappy or angry, or that are causing us to have, basically, to have problems in our lives. And they may when we have a lot of those defilements in our mind, then it can give rise to even more disagreeable qualities and disagreeable thoughts in our mind. So if we have lots of preferences, for example, so if you have a particular teacher that you like, and so you prefer that teacher all the time to other teachers, that preference can lead you, and it's good to have teachers, right? And to have good teachers. But if you have a strong preference for certain teachers, it's based on maybe a quality like you like their jokes, or you like something about them, or they're good looking. That was one of the Bhante Saranapala made as one of his examples. It was cute. So you are attracted to, for some reason, a certain teacher, and then you can't have that teacher all the time, and so you become maybe disgruntled with other teachers or find fault with them because they're not like your preferred teacher. And so that creates that preference, that thing that we like, which is it's a good thing, but it causes us to have the opposite kind of a rebound, where then we begin to dislike things that are not like that. And that's a very simple example, but you can imagine how you could play with that image. So when we're talking about defilements, we're talking about then what arises for us is that person that we like has to be kind of perfect, or will become very unhappy perhaps, or say things that we like or we won't like it, or it causes us to not appreciate qualities in other people. So we can do that with our family members, with our friends, with our spouse. What's the plural? Spouses? It's not spice, is it? We can do that with all the people in our life. If we have a lot of strong views, we might be missing out on a lot of good things, or we might be always clouding our mind with that comparison, and that it becomes judgment. That's just an example I'm thinking of, and I think that's because I can relate to it. So when we talk about right effort, we're talking about being able to look at our minds and see the things that are not skillful thoughts, not wholesome thoughts, and then to let those drop away. And then we guard our minds to keep other unwholesome thoughts coming in. And so we look and see what wholesome thoughts we have, and we protect those. And we also try to nurture and encourage wholesome thoughts. And sometimes it's easy to forget. There's a specific process that the Buddha encouraged us to use. And Bhante Sarnapala was talking about working with depression, and that's a very difficult thing to work with, but that's a mind. Depression is one of those things where there are a lot, we can find our minds just filled with those dark thoughts, or and we feel like there's no way to let go of them. There's no way to get them to go away. So I think this working with right effort, in addition to getting counseling or getting whatever we need, if we need to go talk to our doctors, or if there's medication that can help. But I want to use the example that Bhante Sarnapala used. He talked about a heart-mind container, and even if our minds are and this is just a little, any bowl that works for the image. This is my singing bowl. So if we notice that our heart-mind bowl container is, if it's empty, then we can gradually, drop by drop, begin to work on putting more drops of skillful thoughts, wholesome thoughts into that container. And eventually, drop by drop, it becomes fuller. And if we can also see if there are unwholesome thoughts and thinking that's causing us to have defilements in our mind, we see some drops that we need to get rid of, get out of the bowl. And his image was much more beautiful. But I love the image of the bowl, the heart-mind container, and thinking about filling that bowl, even if it's one drop at a time, with more beautiful thoughts, wholesome thoughts. And he then used loving kindness practice to be the drops we can add to that container. So thoughts for ourselves, of being well and happy and being at peace. Those are drops. Whenever we practice loving kindness towards ourselves, we're putting those drops right into this container. And when we're practicing loving kindness for other people, we're putting drops into our own heart-mind container. So when we do things for others, when we do good things for ourselves, we're putting those drops in. Those are those wholesome, skillful drops that can gradually fill that bowl, and the unwholesome can just flow over the top and leave. And I know when most of us feel that we're depressed or overwhelmed, our minds, our heart-mind container, our bowls, all we can see are those dark thoughts, or a kind of an emptiness of the thoughts are bleak. There's despair. There's hopelessness. And those are the thoughts that we want to always be working with. But drop by drop, we can replace them with more wholesome. And all we have to do is practice loving kindness. That's one way to begin working with that. Because all of those are all drops. And working, what I'm seeing with the amount of extra time I have is I feel I'm working more and more with right effort, and really looking at those spots, looking at those qualities that I need to see and work with, and work a little deeper with some of the mental defilements. And it can just be it can be looking at things like, what are my preferences? And how does that play out in terms of who I like, who I enjoy more than someone else? And do those preferences cause me to be impatient with one person and more patient with another? So I'm using this kind of discrimination to have preferences just based on little things that irritate me. So if I'm feeling impatient, then will someone be no, I don't want to be around that person. They'll make me be impatient. And what that is just that I'm working with that defilement, that I want to make preferences. I want to have some kind of ideal quality that I like in a person. I'm just this is something I'm just thinking of. Was just thinking of this morning. So if I have a preference, then what that becomes is a judgment or a criticism. And it's not just, I prefer chocolate ice cream to vanilla ice cream. It's becoming, I prefer vanilla, so if what you're offering me is chocolate, I don't want it, so I'm gonna go somewhere else. It's gonna make me not like you because you're not giving me what I want. So these defilements in our mind can seem like very little things, but if we have the opportunity to just keep looking at them a little more often and a little deeper, we can begin to see how they affect a lot of things that that we want to see a different quality, that we know that maybe if you feel like you're a very impatient person, that you'd like to be patient. So what do? What do you work with? Well, you just have to work drop by drop, recognizing those drops of impatience floating around, and be willing to let go of them, and then don't letting any more in, trying to guard those doors. And that means guarding our sense doors. It means being with the right people, not people who encourage us to accumulate more drops of those unwholesome qualities. And we can, by guarding those sense doors, we can gradually see those defilements becoming less in our lives. And then we can work to encourage those good qualities and those skillful qualities and thoughts that we have. We can encourage them to increase. And the ones we have, we can develop. We can know the qualities we have that are those skillful, wholesome qualities. And this is why the Buddha always wanted us to really know who we were, So we need to know the good qualities we have, and we need to know the ones that are maybe holding us back or making us unhappy or kind of leading us into that, leading us down the path of depression or sadness. And if we know the qualities that are the ones we need to develop because they help us rise up out of those difficult emotions, and we know ourselves well enough to know when we are moving into those difficult areas, and then we can work with it before it gets away from us. So I just love the image. We have that bowl, and what we're looking at, what are we putting into this bowl? Drop by drop. Are we filling our heart-mind bowl with healthy, loving, kind qualities? And are we nurturing those qualities and ultimately maintaining all of those good qualities? And are we little by little, and that can be drop by drop, letting the ones that aren't serving us well and aren't allowing us to be happy and kind and compassionate, are we allowing those drops to just, we're filling up with the good ones, and we often, that's enough to just let the ones that aren't so good, that aren't serving us well, to just drop away. But once we get those qualities that we have that is a preference, right? But it's a good one. Kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, equanimity, finding that balance in our lives and that loving kindness towards ourselves and others. When we see those qualities are developing and they're there, we need to protect them. We need to maintain those qualities. And that's what can help us keep from sliding into depression or getting to that point where we're not able to rouse ourselves. So find a bowl, find something that you can use as your heart-mind container, and think of it, but think of it drop by drop. Everything we do, this is a gradual path that the Buddha taught, but we have to put effort into it. We can't just, if we're dealing with emotions that we want to get under control or that we see are causing us unhappiness, we have to work with them drop by drop. We can't just say, it's gone, I want it gone. We need to replace it with something. So we have to be working on those qualities that are bringing us joy and happiness. So we're always looking at what causes me, like Marianne, I investigate where the impatience comes from. Yes, exactly. So if we feel impatient, see what that's about. Is it just because we have a preference for something different to be in our gaze? If I look outside and I'm used to seeing my squirrels and paying it, this is a ridiculous example, but I'm used to seeing the squirrels running around and playing, and that just gives me a lot of pleasure. And then I have a dark, dreary day, and I have see more snow coming, and all I see are piles of snow and not even my squirrels. That view is not going to be, I become impatient with that view. So where's that coming from? Why am I suddenly impatient with looking out? And why do we prefer spring and other seasons over winter? And look and see where does it come from? So we're looking at those qualities, and we also begin to see what those qualities give rise to. So it might just, that might be some quality that we're almost not aware of that gives rise to us having strong opinions, or a lot of impatience, or we become angry easily. And we can just look at this past year and find enough of those qualities to think, what would be a way to add drops of skillful qualities to that heart-mind container to allow us to have more of those skillful qualities and let go, just let them, rise to the top and overflow that container. Let go of the unskillful qualities, the ones that, and those unskillful, they're the ones that make our lives harder, that they are the ones that cause suffering for us, for the people that we're around all the time. So that's one of the ways I'm looking at the Eightfold Path and really trying to see it in my life. So when I heard Bhante Sarnapala talking about the heart-mind container, I was really intrigued. So you can go on YouTube and hear his beautiful talk, and it's called it's working with martial music to help with defilements. And it's a very interesting story. I was not familiar with it. About how you can get an elephant out of, if an elephant's stuck in the deep mud, and of course the elephant's so big, no one back in the Buddhist day they didn't have cranes and equipment to pull an elephant out of the mud. And so the story is how the wise person said you encourage the elephant has to help himself. And so the wise person who was trying to help the people get this elephant out of the mud said, you have to do something that will make the elephant like work on his own. So you play military music, and if it's a elephant used in battle, and it would have been drums and horns and things that they use going into battle, that would rouse that elephant to struggle and work his way out of that mud. I had never heard that story before, and I just thought the images were really wonderful. So we need to rouse ourselves, and that martial music needs to be. We need to be finding the things that can help us rouse ourselves out of the mud. So that can be finding those the right friends to be associated with, and be reading teachings and listening to people and have good discussions with your noble friends and your loved ones. And so I now I want to go and find that story. I thought it was a wonderful image. So I think let's just practice a little bit of loving kindness practice. And as we do, think about your meditation practice. And one thing Bhante Sarnapala said was, when you're meditating, just, we're always watching the breath, and then sometimes counting the breath, so we can see more, we can see sooner when we have become distracted, because we lose count. So I recommend that if you're having trouble staying with the breath, that you can count the breath up to 5, because if you try to count more, it makes it more difficult. But you can count each breath. Maybe one can be in breath, out breath, or one can be in and out together. But just count up to 5 and then start over. And then when you lose count between 1 and 5, you become aware of that very quickly, and you realize you lost count because you had become distracted by a thought. And those thoughts are often the thoughts that come into our minds when we're trying to meditate things, those distractions they're usually not that important. They're usually not, they're habits of ours. Our mind wants to think, and it wants to be in charge, and it wants to give us all those stories and things to have occupying our mind, or we're thinking about things we need to do in the future or things we did in the past. And so those are the things we're working to see. That's a good way to see. Sometimes our defilements can be, that can be something as simply as we don't ever let our minds rest. That we're always thinking about the past and the future and all the things we have to do. So in his talk, he talked about loving kindness practice is what can give us those beautiful qualities that we're developing. It reminds us of that. May I be well. May I be safe. May I feel free. May I be happy. And then we send it out to others. Those are ways to fill the bowl, to fill our bowl with those qualities that we want to nurture. And it just affects everything. So let's just end with a few minutes of loving kindness. I have no idea the time, but I've probably talked most of our time. So I'm going to keep my bowl on my desk, and it might be a good place to put little qualities, drop them into this bowl. So work with right effort, and there's so much to read, so many talks, good talks to listen to, and just realize that right effort isn't getting out and building a house. That right effort is working with knowing ourselves and knowing what our bowl is full of, and deciding on what we want to keep and what we want to maybe gradually get rid of. So let's just start with a moment of, let's start with just a moment of loving kindness, and then go about your day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. And when we practice the words in loving kindness, just be thinking of these as this is what you're adding to your heart-mind container. So these are the qualities that we cherish and we want to develop. And once we've got them, we can't let them go. We have to keep working on maintaining the qualities. It's not a one-shot thing. So just go right into loving kindness practice, because we can do this if you're in the kitchen, if you have to go run errands. We can keep loving kindness going. Come back to your breath. As many times a day as you can. Just stop, even if it's for 30 seconds, and come back to your breath. Then when you're in a very stressful, difficult situation, you will find it easier to come back to your breath when you need to really find your calm, to be a helper, or to help yourself, or to make it through a really stressful situation. Just learn how to come back to your breath. Begin sending those drops of goodness to yourself. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be a good friend to myself. May I love myself. And may I know myself and understand myself. May all of my loved ones be well, and may they all be happy. May they all be peaceful. May each one of my loved ones care for themselves. May all my friends and acquaintances and all the people in my life in any way, including my difficult people, may all the people in my life be well, be happy, and be peaceful. May all people and all beings being born or dying be at peace. May they be surrounded by loved ones. Now just radiate the same quality out to all living beings in this world and beyond. All human beings, non-human beings, all creatures, all beings invisible to us. May all these beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from fear, worry, anxiety, free from hunger, free from thirst, and free from the dangers of the extreme weather. May all beings be able to care for themselves or be cared for lovingly by others. And may we all be at peace. Keep sitting if you can, and keep filling your container, those drops of loving kindness. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.